Hey y'all, it's Bradley the Singing Chef. Now today I've got a recipe for you that looks really complex compared to what my bench looks like, but I promise it's not. We're going to use my trusty friend, the old crock pot or slow cooker, to make an amazing beer braised pulled pork. You are going to want this all the time, I promise you. So what we're going to do to get started, the first step that I do with my pulled pork is on the actual pork butt, I use a dry rub first, which I keep on hand in an airtight container in my pantry all the time. And this is the portion that I'm going to use on what we've got today because it's the remaining portion of what I've already made. But I thought as kind of a bonus, I'd actually show you all the ingredients that go into that spice rub so that you can create it at home for yourself. Now, I don't only use this spice rub for pulled pork. I use it on grilled country ribs. I've taken it and combined it with some mayonnaise and put it on some chicken breasts and grilled those. I mean, it works on almost everything that you would want to have any kind of a barbecue flavor to it. So let's get started making the dry rub, okay? Any large piece of meat, whether it's chicken or pork or whatever it is you're going to use this rub on, is going to need quite a bit of salt and pepper as well as other spices, okay? So there are a few of these that I'm going to measure, but in order to make it easy, I create this in bulk so that I can just take these normal size spice containers and actually use the entire thing to make the bulk of what I'm making. There are a few things that I will measure out. I'll give you those measurements. I'll also make sure that in the details and description of the video on YouTube that I will tell you the exact measurements of each of these bottles that I use whole, as well as the portions that I use that are not whole, okay? So, first thing I'm gonna do is use some chili powder, okay? This is a 4.5 ounce container of chili powder. And literally, I'm going to put the entire thing into a mixing bowl. You'll notice that that is one of the bigger flavors that's in this rub. That container's done, throw it in a garbage bowl. Cumin. Now this is one of the ingredients that is also larger than a normal size, but I am going to measure it. I need 1/3 of a cup of cumin for some extra smoky flavor in any of these. All right? 1/3 of a cup of cumin. That one gets to hang out with us. Okay, so now, all of these containers are, let's see, this is 2 ounce, 0.5, well, they're different, but they're the same size in the rack of spices when you go to the grocery store. So I'm not really concerned about the measurement as much as that regular size across the board for the next 5 ingredients, okay? We're gonna do paprika. Again, the entire thing goes in. Go. Toss. Oregano. I'm only going to use about 1/2 of this container. No, I lied. Maybe 1/3 of that container. So we'll hang on to you because there's still more to use. Red pepper flake. Now this is going to depend kind of on your spice level, but I like to honestly use this entire container. So we're gonna put that in there. Again, this is just a spice rub, so it's not gonna do a lot of, total cooking to bring out oils and stuff. Ground mustard, we've all discovered in previous recipes that I like ground mustard. Again, entire container of the ground mustard goes in. And a container of ground coriander is gonna go in. Great. Now, these are some things that I'm going to actually measure out. Garlic powder. I use this in a lot of recipes, so I buy a larger container, but I don't need the entire thing for sure. I'm going to use 1/4 of a cup. garlic powder. Put that to the side. Allspice. This is ground Jamaican allspice. I love this flavor. It's just got that like clovey goodness in it. And for that, I'm gonna actually only use a tablespoon in there because it is a pretty strong spice. I don't want it to completely take over everything else that we've already built. Cinnamon. There's already probably some cinnamon in that allspice, but I like cinnamon. So I'm gonna use, which normally you're used to that in a sweet dish, but a little bit of sweetness never hurt anybody. So I'm gonna do just a half teaspoon of ground cinnamon, ground ginger. Again, a really strong spice, so I don't need a ton of it. I'm only gonna do a half a teaspoon of that. And then again, this is a spice level thing, cayenne. Cayenne will take over your world if you use too much of it. So for the rub, because I can always add like a sauce or something if I want something that's spicier, I'm only gonna use a half a teaspoon of cayenne as well. Now, I told you earlier, you're gonna need a lot of salt and pepper to make sure that it gets into each of the things that you're making. For black pepper, I'm gonna use 1/4 of a cup of ground black pepper and about a half a cup. It sounds like a lot, but again, we're making this in bulk. A half a cup of salt. Come on. This salt's being a pain. There we go. Half a cup of salt. Great. Those are all the spices that are in there. The last ingredient that I add to my spice rub is dark brown sugar. Now I'm gonna add that after I get the rest of this kind of stirred around and all loving each other so I don't make a ginormous mess. This is gonna make enough of this spice rub to do you for a very, very long time. If you want to take these measurements and half them, you would still have enough to do you for a long time if you don't cook that often or make dishes that would use this rub that often. I just like to make it in bulk, mainly because of the ease of tossing away these spice bottles as I go. Okay, pretty mixed together for the most part. So now, brown sugar. Only gonna add about 1/3 of a cup of dark brown sugar for a little bit of sweet to add to the heat. Sweet and heat and salt all in this rub. It's amazing. Great. Stir that brown sugar in there. Break up some clumps as you tend to do. Great. And it's as easy as that. Like that didn't take any time at all to just throw all of those ingredients together and you have a ginormous container of this spice rub, which you can put in little airtight containers like this to put in your pantry and it's there and good to go for you. Okay. So let's move this stuff over to the side. I've already used so that we can get going on the main event. All right, so like I said, we're gonna use the crock pot today for this pork butt roast that we're gonna use, and it's gonna literally cook on low overnight, nice and slow, so that when you wake up the next morning in your house, this smell is going to make you so excited knowing that you've got this going. It's a really simple recipe for beer braised pulled pork. So here we go. All right, the first thing I need to do is I'm using a couple of small onions because that's just what I had. If you have one large onion, that's probably plenty. So we're gonna actually take that onion. Take off that cap. Take off this other cap. Because I'm not dicing this, I'm actually going to slice it. So I really want to peel away that outer layer totally. Let's do the other one while we're at it. Take off one cap. Take off the other cap. Toss that into your garbage bowl. Peel away that outer layer that we don't need or want. Go. Great. And then this is as simple as can be. You're just gonna slice the onion, and there's no, it doesn't have to be pretty, because honestly we're not even gonna eat this onion. It's mainly going in the crock pot for flavor, okay? So if you've got one large onion, like I said, that's plenty. If you only have smaller onions, you may want to grab two so that you have enough. What you're going to want to do is take these onion slices and just cover the bottom of your crock pot with a layer of these onion slices. If you want to separate them to spread around, that's perfectly fine. Great. Next thing we need is some garlic, okay? I've got 5 medium-sized cloves, medium to large-sized cloves, and you don't even have to do anything other than get the peel off of these, and you toss the cloves into the crock pot completely whole. All right, 1, 2, come on. Just smashing these quickly to get the peel off as fast as I can for you. Come on, little clove. There we go. Great. Smash and peel. Should come off pretty easily. Yep, that's 3, 2, 1. Depending on the size of the clove that you've got, you know, you may only want 4, but based on the ones I had, I wanted 5. Again, this is not something you're going to eat in the pork. It's really going in the crock pot just to give you some flavor to that pork as it braises away. All right. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cloves. Clean off the cutting board there. Great. All right, now for the fun. So today I bought a pretty large pork butt, because actually I'm using this to feed some of my closest friends. I have the privilege and honor of currently serving as the vocal director for an a cappella group called Voctive. It has lots of my friends from my Voices of Liberty days in it. They're amazing. Please check them out on YouTube if you haven't already. I mean, they're kind of a big deal, this group. They're so special and so freaking talented. And tomorrow I get the pleasure of working in the recording studio with the ladies of Voctive on their new album. And so I said, hey, I'm gonna do a cooking video at home for some pulled pork. Would you guys like me to provide dinner for our dinner break? And they all said, yes! At least that's how I read the text from Crystal specifically when she sent it. And from Tiffany when she sent hers that said yes. So anyway, so I'm excited to make this for them today. Again, I love cooking so much, but I love it even more when I get to actually do it for my friends. So I've got a fairly large pork butt here. This one is almost 8.5 pounds. You don't have to have one this large, especially if your crock pot is not that large. You're gonna wanna make sure that it's gonna at least fit in your crock pot before you buy the pork butt. Okay, so first step, we spent that time making that spice rub. And this, gosh, this pork butt is so large, I may need more than that previous batch, so I may dip into what we need, actually. So you're gonna take this spice rub, has all those spices, salt and pepper, and brown sugar in it, and you're just gonna coat the outside. It's gonna get a little bit messy. It's okay, as long as you've got a clean board and really clean hands, you're gonna be good to go. And we're gonna just rub that in to that first side of the pork butt. Make a little bit of a mess, that's okay. Great. Then because there's kind of a 3-step process. It's almost like a dredge process, but not really. You're gonna dump some of that excess off, turn it to the side. Take some more of your dry rub, pour it on that side, and rub that into the meat. I said this was an 8.5 pound pork butt. This is actually a bone-in pork butt, so there's a little bit of, it's not all 8.5 pounds of meat. It's quite a bit of bone is in there too. Great. Pour some more of my rub. I know I'm going to use this. I'm not really concerned that I have the pork on my hands, but if you're not going to use all of that, make sure you don't double dip with the meat touching and the container of the rub. Okay, that was the side that had the fat cap on it. There's like a layer of fat on the top, and I'll talk about that a little bit more once we actually put this bad boy into the crock pot. Okay, so now you can see, I don't know if you can see or not, but like in the container that the pork butt came in, I've kind of caught some of that rub. So rather than waste more of it, I'm gonna just press that pork butt, the pieces and sides and ends that don't already have rub on, into the spice rub that's left. Good deal. All right, cool. All right, so that is step 1, all right? I'm not gonna clean my hands yet because they're just gonna continue to get dirty. Here's the next step. Spicy brown mustard. Don't care what brand, just spicy brown. Dijon would work too. Regular mustard would probably work too, but I like, again, a little bit of kick. So I'm gonna use this spicy brown mustard. And again, we're gonna get messy, all right? We're gonna pour a big dollop of that mustard right on top of the pork after we put the rub on. And with one hand, just slather that spicy mustard all over that side, around the end if you've got any excess. Turn that. More mustard on this end. Slather it in. Honestly, this recipe, it's worth it to just, when you're done with this bottle, throw it away, so you don't really care if it's messy. This is the fat cap end. Keep rubbing. It's like, you gotta show your food some love, right? So, give this pork butt a little massage, like you love it, because you're gonna love it. Oh my gosh, this is gonna be so good. The excess put it on the end. That end. Turn it. Come on. A little bit more for that last side. Great. Okay. Now, I'm gonna go and wash my hands. I will be right back. There's a couple more steps, but I think I should wash my hands because I just can't pick up anything else. So I will be right back. All right, so I'm back. I washed my hands. The last step I did, actually, I washed them twice, if I'm honest with you. I washed them off to get the majority of the mustard and all that goo off of my hands from doing the initial mustard slather all over the already dry rubbed pork butt. I then took the last remaining portion of the dry rub, probably about, I don't know, 1/8 to 1/4 of a cup of it, and then I sprinkled it over the top of the fat cap side that has mustard and spice rub underneath the mustard already on it. That fat cap side is the side of the pork that you're gonna want to be facing up in your crock pot. What happens when you do this low and slow is that fat cap, that fat is flavor. And since it's on the top, as it kind of melts away, it's just gonna go all over the rest of this pork butt. So I wanted that extra second layer of the rub on that top side. Once you finish with the pork butt, you're gonna actually remove that fat cap. It's done its job at that point before you shred it into shredded pork. But to get that extra leaven on the top of it, I put that extra layer of the spice rub on top of the mustard layer on the fat cap side only. Okay, so if you'll remember, in our crock pot, we've already got our sliced onion slices at the bottom, along with 4 or 5 cloves of garlic, okay? From there, you can take this lovely piece of pork that we've worked so hard to create, that little bark. I'm gonna shake off a little bit of excess, because you don't really need all of that. All right, and I'm gonna place the whole thing into that slow cooker. It's a tight fit, because, I mean, I've got a really large crock pot, but that is 8.5 pounds of loveliness. Okay, if you remember, I said this is gonna be beer braised pork. Oh my gosh. I mean, if you think about it, like mustard and beer and pork, it all goes together. But another flavor combination that I love with pork, you probably grew up eating like pork chops and applesauce or stewed apples with pork or whatever. So that's why I chose one of the 2 bottles of beer that we are going to use in this braised pork butt. One of them is a crisp apple cider beer, okay? Any of your choosing is fine. And honestly, if you don't really care about the apple and you happen to have some beer that you really like in your fridge, as long as you use 2 bottles of it, you're probably gonna be fine. I'm just again thinking about another flavor layer to add to this. So I'm gonna take this bottle of apple cider beer, and then on the side of the pork, I'm gonna pour that whole bottle. So I get towards the end, and a little drizzle over the top. And then I am using an extra stout dark beer. I love the caramel notes and sort of almost coffee notes that this kind of beer also adds to this dish. So I'm going to use that, crack that open. And on the other side, pour that beer a little over the top for good measure. It's gonna foam up on you, and that's okay. It will go away. That is it. It's literally these ingredients: an onion, some garlic, a pork butt, some spicy mustard, and a spice rub that we just learned how to create. And then it just sits in this bath overnight and gets so tender that it's just gonna fall apart when we take it out tomorrow morning, okay? Leave it on low in your crock pot overnight, or at least between 8 and 10 hours. That's why I just do it overnight. It's just as easy to just let it go overnight. And in the morning, you are going to be thrilled with the result. And I will see you in the morning to show you exactly what this looks like. Thanks for joining me. I'm Bradley, the Singing Chef. See you in a bit. Good morning, y'all. I woke up to this house smelling so good because of what is in this crock pot. Oh my goodness. The pulled pork is ready to go. So I'm gonna take it out. Take off that lid. Goodness. So good. All right, so I'm gonna pack this up to take it to the ladies of Voctive today. So I've got 2 fairly large spatulas. I'm gonna try to get this out in one fell swoop, but honestly, it may just fall apart, which is exactly what you want it to do, to be quite honest. Try to get underneath one side with the large spatula. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's gonna fall apart. That's okay. Look at that. So tender. This other half out. Just falling off the bone. Goodness gracious. Oh my gosh, that looks so good. All that work that we did with the mustard and the marinade on top is absolutely gonna be worth it. All right, now, you can see here on the top, that brown top crusty bit, that is the fat cap. So we're gonna remove that, throw that away because we don't want that in our pulled pork. Ooh, pot's still a little bit warm. And honestly, it might not even take a knife to do this. Oh yeah, it's like slicing through softened butter. Just take off that fat cap, toss it away. Right down through there. That off. This side over here. That off. Ooh. I got a few pieces of meat that I don't want to waste. Then you're gonna find, probably if you did bone in for sure, you're gonna find that bone in the middle, and you'll wanna remove it into your garlic bowl. And then from there, folks, it is super easy. Just to take 2 forks and shred. I mean, just falling apart to the touch of each of these forks. Yes, my goodness gracious. This is gonna be amazing. We're gonna do pulled pork sandwiches today for our dinner break from the recording studio. So I'm gonna bring some buns. I'm gonna make a quick coleslaw to bring with me, some potato chips, and we will be good to go. Now I need to try this because I want to make sure that the seasoning is just right on it. I think it's gonna be amazing. Now you can add your barbecue sauce of choice to this when you put it on your sandwich. Let's get a little close up there. Look at that. Just gorgeous. Oh my gosh. All right, let's taste. Maybe just a pinch of salt, but other than that, there is so much flavor in this from the beer that it braised in, as well as the mustard that was on the outside, and that amazing dry rub that we spent so much time creating has imparted so much flavor in this. You're gonna wanna try this recipe. Now the last thing I'm gonna do before I pack this up is here in the bottom of the crock pot is still a lot of the braising liquid. The beer's really dark. And I'm gonna pour just like 1 ladle full all over what I've got in my to-go container. There, that would be a full ladle. So that in transport, there's still some juices in there for that to stay nice and moist and ready to go. Thank you so much for joining me last night and this morning in the kitchen as we did this amazing beer braised pulled pork. I hope you'll make this, take the time to make it for your friends and your family. And I hope that you'll subscribe, like, and share my YouTube channel, Bradley the Singing Chef. And more than anything, I hope to see you in the next episode. All right, have a great day.